Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Theory. I'm John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. I am joined by Dan Lamagna. That's at Coach Dan Dynasty, and Mitch Sorensen at Dino MC. Guys, tonight we want to spend some time talking about buying the dip. And I was thinking about this. I was like, is it really the dip, or like, is it a slippery slope? Is it a falling knife? There are many guys we want to talk about tonight. In general, Dan, how do you typically feel? You know, there's some people, if there's a player that their value drops significantly, they're like, oh, I got to make an offer. I got to buy low. Do you typically go that route, or are you one where you see the value really start to fall on a player? Depending on the situation, I mentioned falling knife. You kind of see it like that.
I mean, hey, it's like the stock market. You got to pounce when it's down a little bit, but try and identify it's not always that easy. And I think that's what we're going to take a nice little deep dive in tonight is, you guys put a good list of players in the show notes that, some of them you got me thinking, and I might, go ahead. Might have to go make some offers. Hopefully have some better luck than I did a week ago trying to get Caleb Williams. But then some other guys I might disagree with you a little tonight of where their value is. So it's going to be interesting, but there are certain guys that you may like, and there are times they're priced too much. And when that dip comes, now's the time where we could obtain them. It's just, should we?
Mitch, we talked about this with the rookie episode where it's like, yeah, you could get the rookie where they're going in rookie drafts. Like, let's say you're getting Tet McMillan at 104, whatever the case may be. Or it's like, oh, maybe I can get him cheaper after his rookie season. Mm-hmm. But once we get to a point, especially if a player doesn't produce, and we're not spending time talking about rookies tonight, but if a player doesn't produce, they fall enough. It's like, do I even want them anymore? And that's kind of the situation we're talking about with the five guys we're bringing to the table tonight.
Yeah, it's all about the preconceived value, right? I mean, the guys we're talking about, every one of them had the hype coming in. At some point in their career, we were buying into them, whether it was their profile, the situation, whatever the reason was, and they haven't lived up to that yet. I mean, the first player we're talking about, I really wanted to do a show just on him alone because I think he could see the greatest value increase and just an absolute dirt floor of nothingness. I saw John already changed it, so it's Anthony Richardson. For me, I've been wanting to talk about him for a couple of weeks now because we know what the floor is. The floor is nothing. He's just not a starter after 6 games this year. That's what a lot of the talk about in the Discord is. It's, oh, hey, Daniel Jones. You can't even put anything into Richardson because at some point Daniel Jones is going to start. And I go back to, how is Shane Steichen going to keep his job? Is a 7-10 Daniel Jones going to help him keep his job? And I don't think so. I think they are going to give Anthony Richardson every opportunity possible to win. First off, because it's better for the franchise. And second off, the coaching staff is gone if Richardson isn't good, no matter what happens with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones isn't going to turn this into a 12-5 team. Can Richardson? I don't know. A lot of when he was coming out, we said he needs a lot of time. He doesn't have a lot of starting experience in college. He needs time. First year, cut short on injuries. Last year, had the issues that we all know about, injuries and on the field things and maturity stuff. He's going into his 3rd year. I've already seen in the chat, everyone's like, nope, off of AR, off of AR. But here's the thing. We're talking about 1 month ago, we're telling everyone to go out and buy Justin Fields because of what he's doing. I'm sorry, Justin Fields isn't a good quarterback. We're buying him because of the situation he's in. Anthony Richardson is walking into a better situation than Justin Fields is walking into. The Colts have a better team than what the Jets have. So in my opinion, I'm not just saying, hey, go out and buy him. I'm just saying don't write it off that quick just because he's been bad so far. This is his first offseason to actually improve.
Dan, is this one of the players that you said, hey, I mean, I'm surprised you don't have the penalty flag, the challenge flag locked and loaded?
No, this is one of them that intrigues me the most. And maybe that's why Mitch said we could probably talk about an hour on one guy. Like he's worth dedicating a show to. 2 things that stood out that Mitch said there. One was he is one of the guys that could rise the most. When I looked at my quarterback rankings before the show, like he could take a monumental leap. I have him at quarterback 28 right now, and only for the reason of the guys at the end of my rankings have some sort of job security question mark right now. And like I have him one below Justin Fields. I agree with Mitch. I don't think Justin Fields is a good quarterback, but boy, I feel secure with his status of the New York Jets and the way they're investing in them. And the other thing Mitch said that stands out, because our chat it seems a bit split, but a little bit more towards the AR's in trouble side. That coach's job security. Like they've got the draft capital invested in this guy. They need to make it work. And what I'm holding on to is last year we heard a lot about his work ethic. He was gassed, in a game and wanted to pull himself out. Like hopefully that was enough of an experience last year for him to wake up. Hopefully he worked his tail off this offseason, comes in with a whole new attitude. And then the talent's there. Like, that offense too is loaded. Like if there's anyone that you'd love to have the pieces around him, when you have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield and a good array of wide receivers, he is in a good situation as well.
Yeah, I mean, the comments are coming in as expected.
It is, without a doubt.
And I actually think this is a name that I wanted to bring up tonight whenever, Mitch, you were putting things together. And I have a very low rostership of Anthony Richardson. But when you look at the range of outcomes, Mitch, you already alluded to it. We know there was that pre-draft bias to him, right? We know there was that the high value coming in, and everybody said, well, look at the upside. Well, you need to be on the field for there to be upside. Mitch, you mentioned it. The bottom is absolute zero, and that could be sooner rather than later. And I see the Justin Fields comments, like Justin Fields right now, quarterback 23 in startups. Over on Fantasy Cow, quarterback 24, Richardson floating right below him. And like once you get to this point, whether it's existing leagues from a value perspective or startups, you have to kind of, let's forget about cross positional stuff, because obviously that's a completely different element. So if you're in that range at that 202 to 203 or Anthony Richardson and you want to go cross positionally, perfect. Like I have very little rostership of Anthony Richardson. So it's not like I have, I certainly don't have a horse in this fight. Dog in this fight.
Okay. Yeah, sure. You don't give us crap out analogies at all, but also we have horses fighting on this show. Like, all right.
Listen, as soon as I said it, I caught myself. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Well, I don't have a dog or a horse. Okay. But when we're looking at Anthony Richardson, he's going to the startups right next to Cortland Sutton. Right next to Isaiah Pacheco. So you look at these types of guys that are going around him. Yeah, you might be getting immediate production, but what is the opportunity for them to rise in value? And that's what you get with Anthony Richardson. I'm on the side that Anthony Richardson gets to zero sooner rather than later. So let that be clear. But I thought it was a very interesting player to talk about, because when you look at where he was valued versus where he is valued and the potential that is there. Yes, so we all know the flaws and the issues. Like we're not sitting here saying, oh my God, Anthony Richardson, he's just gotten such a raw deal. Like that. I'm trying to catch up on some of the comments. Frank, I love Sutton too. If you can get a mid-second for AR, that's robbery. I see Geist versus drafting Milrow with a mid-second like people are doing. Here we go. AR plays for the Colts. A Colt is a horse. Boom. JB wants AR. Horse in the fight. Nailed it. What dice is there to roll with AR? He's dead in the waters. But that's where we are, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's very easy to say you're out on players. Like, the hardest thing to do in fantasy football and dynasty is to be like, no, I actually believe in these players. We all know every player we talk about on today's show, there's a very easy reason to be like, hey, there's a 5% chance they're going to be good. I'm immediately off of them. But the point is, sometimes these players do rebound. And are you willing to let's say it takes a mid-second to get him. Who are you getting in the mid-second? I mean, really, who do you really love that much? And I know you could do more with that pick than just pick the rookie, but odds are you're probably going to have to give that up to get a starting quarterback if you're in the playoffs and your quarterback goes down. Like, we act like a second round value is a lot. It's really not. So if you're telling me I could get a starting quarterback who gives me the upside of, let's see, air yards per attempt, he was 1 overall. Fantasy points per dropback, guess what? He was 5th overall that last year. So it's not like you aren't getting the production on the field as far as fantasy goes. It's just if you could keep it together enough for the Colts to get wins. And I think that team is good enough, and I think that division is bad enough that there's a strong chance of it happening.
Yeah, a lot of great comments here. And Mitch, you said it. The 5 players we spend time talking about tonight, they are all guys that you right away could just be like, yep, I'm done for this reason, that reason, whatever. Some are still producing. Some have been a little bit healthier, but the red flags, they're certainly there with Anthony Richardson. Like, again, that's not ignoring any of that, but looking through some of these trades, let us know in the comments which one of these you would prefer. We'll run through a few very quickly. Let's go Dan Mitch all the way through here. Anthony Richardson and a 27 4th for a 26 second and the 304 12 team start 11 half PPR 0.25 tight end premium super flex. Dan, you're on mute, buddy.
My bad. So for me, this is smash.
I was waiting for you to answer.
My bad. I had to sneak a little snack there. I've been out in the cold for 7 hours with a home project. But anyway, similar to some of the comments in the chat, they would take like a second round in 25. This is a second round in 26 and only a third in 25. My thought is, if you have A-Rich on your roster, you probably, like, is he your second quarterback? Like, I think you need him to come through.
I sure as hell hope not.
Or you got to get a draft pick. Or if he's your third quarterback, then maybe you could roll the dice. But to me, like a mid-second, there's some guys I like in the mid-second this year for sure. But do I want a chance to give up a starting quarterback for that? So I'm a little nervous. I think Mitch has got a good point. Like, they have enough talent around him where if he just comes in serious this year, he could be a productive quarterback that I'd rather hold and give him a chance to do good. And if I lose out, I lose out versus trading him now. And then you could really have gotten something more later.
I love this comment from Ricky. I'm assuming it's a John Cena call out. You can't hear me instead of can't see me. Let's see. Before I turn it over to Mitch, if you were saying he's worth a mid-second with 5% of becoming worthwhile, then wouldn't he need to be worth 20 mid-seconds when he hits to make the bet worthwhile?
I mean, that's if you think mid-seconds are going to hit in the first place. So you have to look that into it too. Like, how many mid-seconds are actually worth anything 2 years down the road?
I see the comment from Gavin on Dynasty Daddy. Any super flex leagues are just categorized as 2 quarterback. It does not differentiate. So It could be 2 quarterback. We'll just assume super flex here. Mitch, where are you on this trade specifically?
Richardson.
And then from Geist, Dan, Richardson or Geno?
This is where I just rather gamble and see. Like I'm a little bit out on Geno from last year, although he does have a very solid situation. But oh man, I mean, today I have Geno ahead of him in my rankings just for the stability and job security. So maybe I say Geno, but I wouldn't feel good about it.
I like Geno.
I also like the cop out here, and I see some of these names floating around. Like, I have Darnold, Richardson, Geno, Stafford, and Shuck tiered together. So if you're looking for upside versus like,
so if I have some Shuck, what exactly do I need to add for you to trade me a Stafford?
I have a lot of Shuck already.
Oh, all right.
I got Shuck Daddy, but here's the thing. Based on my roster construction, if I have a team that is relying on Stafford, if Stafford's my quarterback too, and this is kind of that range, like I have teams, Mitch, you were making fun of me in our DMs. I'm doing a startup. I have teams where Geno Smith is a quarterback too. You know, I have one anchor quarterback, a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback, and then I'm relying on a Geno or a Stafford. So in those types of situations, I'm not looking to pivot for a shock. If Anthony Richardson is my quarterback 3, I like that as a high upside play. I'm not really missing out on much. Like, yes, we could potentially get a mid-second, and everybody wants to sit there and think, well, this second, it's going to amount to something. And yeah, you might get different windows and opportunities to cash out, but overall, like that hit rate, it's not great. But again, it's not just point A to point B. We've talked about that before. Mitch from Gavin, AR or Shador in a 27 second?
AR. Dan.
Yeah, that's a smash. There's just a chance you have nothing with Shador, and that 27 is so far out. And again, even a 25 second this year, I don't believe in Tyler Shook enough to roll that dice to lose a shot at A-Rich.
Frank says AR or Stafford. I would go Stafford straight up.
Yeah, and I think Stafford is in that Geno category where there's just so much security right now, but I also don't want a mid-late 30s quarterback on my dynasty team. I just don't, unless I have to for a year or two, but I'm going to try to get out of that.
But again, if you're in a situation the way that your roster is built and the direction it's going, I feel more confident in Matthew Stafford over the next 2 years. Like, we're looking at range of outcomes. I feel more comfortable with that situation, especially in a +6 passing touchdown league over Anthony Richardson.
Why are they in the same tier then?
Because again, that if Stafford, if I'm in a situation where I am looking to enter a rebuild, then I don't mind the upside in Anthony Richardson. All right. It would help if I were on the right screen to scroll here. Stafford 111 and 311 for Anthony Richardson and Roma Dunze. 12 team start, 10 full PPR, half point tight end premium, super flex.
This isn't even about I know, Dan, you're first, but this isn't even about the quarterbacks for me. Like, I've seen Roma Dunze traded for like an early second in leagues, and I don't understand it. I'm taking Roma Dunze. Richardson happens to be there.
Yeah, we heard in the YouTube comments all the Roma Dunze love. So he's a high commodity there. Got to take the Rome side.
Here's one where we're packaging up. Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson, 109 and 201 for Jalen Hurts. 12 teams start, 10. Give me Hurts.
Same. Yeah, Hurts by at least a first.
Yeah, I take the Hurts. You're getting a stud quarterback. Nice deal, though.
All right, I like this one here. I think this is a fun one because everybody hates Tua also. I am getting Tua. I've done a few startups. I think I've taken him almost in every single one I've done this offseason. The value is low. He's going in this, what did I say? Like the 8th round of startups. Let's see. I know this is on my screen now, but that's all right. Where do we say Tua 86? So what is that? 8th round, beginning of the 8th and in 12 team super flex. So, Dan, Tua and 202. That's a lot of 2 sounds. Or Anthony Richardson and 111, 12 team start, 10.
Yeah, I just gotta get my rosary out and pray that Tua doesn't get hurt, and I definitely accept this Tua side for all the stability and offense, and he's a good quarterback. Although I think I was telling you guys in the Discord, rookie draft this week, this one owner tried to trade Tua for a late first, couldn't do it. Tried to trade him for an early second, no one took it until 2.6 came up, and he ended up trading Tua for 2.6. He had 2 starting quarterbacks, and he just wanted to get rid of Tua, and he ended up taking Higgins for Tua.
I don't care if you have 5 quarterbacks, you don't do that. But I'm taking Tua here as well.
All right, so as you see on the screen, should we buy the dip? Mitch, in general, should we be buying the Anthony Richardson dip? And if so, what does that ideal deal look like?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at him as your quarterback 2 and that's why you're buying into him, then no, you don't do it. But if you could get buy into Anthony Richardson and he's your quarterback 3 and you're paying the 204, the 205 for him, I'm happy to make that gamble on a lot of leagues because the upside is there. I mean, we could poo-poo on it all we want, but I mean, he was going quarterback, I think 6 or 7 overall in underdog last year. Situation is only improved since then. They went out and added Tyler Warren. I think their offensive line isn't quite as bad as what happened last year. They have good skill position players everywhere. I'm okay buying into him for that price. If it's a first, then of course, hell no, I'm out. But besides that, I'll buy a little bit.
Dan, you buying that dip?
I'm right where Mitch is, and by going with our chat tonight, who's willing to give up a mid-second, I'd go a little earlier than that. Maybe I'll try, where I can, maybe 2.03, 203, 204. I would take a shot on A-Rich.
Okay.
John.
John looks perplexed.
I haven't tried to go out and acquire him. So
that was the question is, would you do this? Are you willing to buy the dip with no hedging? Just, are you willing to?
Without hedging, without any additional context, I'm going to say no.
I think you're going to say no on all these players, to be honest.
No, that's not true. But Anthony Richardson, I like these conversations because they're very divisive. I'm sure you have people that are still in on Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
And I think based on this conversation, we can sit here and confidently say none of us are pounding the table, but it is a good thought exercise. And whether it's an Anthony Richardson, whether it's other players we're going to talk about tonight, even though we spent about 4 hours talking about Anthony Richardson, I think it's a good conversation to be had. So we'll talk about some grossness here. Tight end 9, and I hate how big I had to make the font here, but Kyle Pitts' name is so short, you had to blow it up, or there was just too much space. So Mitch, tight end 9, Kyle Pitts. Let's assume.
Why do I have to talk about him?
Well, actually, Dan.
Yeah, you do it, Dan. I don't want to.
Well, Mitch started with Anthony Richardson, and the chat did not like that. So Kyle Pitts, tight end 9, in the context of the conversations we have before we get into trades, let's include a 0.75 tight end premium.
So that's fair. He is one of the guys on the list tonight that I'm like, I don't see it. Like A-Rich, I would take a shot at the dip for the right price because there's still hope there, I think. Maybe not everyone agrees in the chat, but there's hope. I don't think there's any hope for Pitts. I don't even have him as I question him being in the top 12, never mind tight end 9. So there's a lot of other tight ends that I would just roll the dice on, even in the rookie draft this year. Is he really cheap? I think I have one share of Pitts maybe right now. Is there upside as he's really a wide receiver. So he's wide receiver 2 or 3 in Atlanta. Depends where you're at Darnell Mooney. Hey, a wide receiver 2 or 3 as your tight end in fantasy, like I don't mind him on my rosters because we know how ugly the position is, but I have no interest in buying the dip.
Mitch.
All right, here's the thing, right? I will speak. I don't want to, but I will, because we're not just gonna talk. He is a 50 catch, 600 yards, 5 touchdown tight end. That's a Hunter Henry kind of tight end. But he's 24. And so what are you really having to pay for him? Tight end 9 isn't very expensive to go out and buy in Dynasty. That is not hard to go and get. I mean, well, we could say that all you want, but no one wants Hunter Henry in a league, and Pitts at least has value, right? And so I don't want to end up talking yourself into, or saying that I'm talking myself into these players. But if you look at Pitts on just what he is, not the hype, not the floor, he is tight end 11 to 12 each year in fantasy, just because he's on the field. He gives you some big weeks. Do you want to buy into that for tight end 9 price? You might as well go with tight end 15. But I mean, I can't ever think he's going to get back up to tight end 6 or tight end 7. And let me say, the only reason why we're talking about this tight end and the next one is because John brought them up. It wasn't Dan or I.
No, I did, because when we're talking about buying the dip on players, they're falling in value for various reasons. One of which is they're old, and I wanted to avoid that, because if you're buying the dip based on the age, you can still get production and justify that, and it's fine. The value is going to continue to fall. Look at a Mike Evans and where he's going in startups in general. We're going to be talking about that running backs, Mitch, David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara. So there's players that just are not going to gain value simply because of age. But you look at these guys that came in that had so much value: Kyle Pitts, Anthony Richardson, both of them were top 10, top 5 startup picks in a lot of situations, especially in heavier tight end premium leagues when it comes to Kyle Pitts. But like, that's why I wanted to talk about these guys, because is it a dip or is it a falling knife? You know, and really the graphic for tonight's episode should have just been the three of us laying there on the ground with knives falling, you know, all over us, maybe talking about these guys. But you can see here in startups, Kyle Pitts, 108th overall, right around Jaden Reed, Brian Robinson, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Swift. So that's kind of the range we're talking about in startups. And then going into trades here, really would have helped if I would have put this in already, so you didn't have to see me scroll there.
That's why you're doing that. Like, when I looked at those startups there, I would just rather take somebody else and get one of those rookies tight ends from this year and roll the dice. You know, give me a Mason Taylor or somebody like that.
And again, Mitch, you talked about the stat line for Kyle Pitts. Like, look at where Tyler Warren is going.
Yeah.
Look at where Colston Loveland is going. Do we think they're going to outproduce Kyle Pitts?
I don't think so.
Soon, though.
I don't know. But it's just an average stat line for a tight end. You know, we have the elite guys. We have the Bowers and McBride who are putting up 80 catches and 1,100 yards a season. And then there's just everybody else. And that's kind of why I haven't bought into these rookie tight ends, because I think they're just kind of everybody else. Just like Frank says, if you can do that, 100% do that in every single league that you can.
Yeah, it's either tier up for one of the two studs. Even Laporta, like you're seeing him slip in startups because he's not truly giving you that difference-making upside and production that you got of this first two. There's a massive break. So here's some trades. Mitch, let's start with you. 12-team Superflex, start 10, full PPR. You were getting an extra 1.5 for tight ends. Kyle Pitts or a 27 first and third?
27 first.
Yeah, this is the one time I'll even wait till 2027 there, guys. And that's rare. You know that.
Too many pieces there. I don't want to talk about that. 12 teams, start 11, full PPR, extra half point for tight ends. Joe Mixon and Romeo Doubs or Kyle Pitts in the 304?
Mixon.
Yeah, Mixon. I want to win now.
All right. 12-team Superflex, start 10, full PPR, 0.75 tight end premium. Kyle Pitts and Breece Hall, or a 26 first, a 27 first, and a 26 third.
I'll let everyone know over the next 2 years, pretty much if there's a 27 first involved, I'm picking the 27 first just because the community sentiment around it.
Yeah, especially for Pitts. This trade is more about Breece Hall for me, and I still like the 2 firsts over there.
Only an extra half point tight end premium. Kyle Pitts or the 208?
This is about his value for me. I will go Kyle Pitts here. But I completely understand if someone was like, no, I want Mason Taylor instead.
It would depend on my roster construction there. If Pitts was, for some reason, my tight end that I was stuck with, I'd probably keep him. If I had another good tight end, then I would go with 208.
But again, and I know nobody wants him, and we're not just from a value perspective discussing this guy, but go get the Hunter Henry production. I love how Hunter Henry's the poster child. And you know, but he's going to go out there. Everybody's talking about him, especially in the DD Fantasy Football Discord. Basically, anytime there's a conversation about tight end production, and you know he's going to go out there and shit the bed, and we're going to have 110% rostership. Yes, we're going to have him in some leagues twice. But let's see here. Just looking at some of the comments here.
What's good for Kyle Pitts is they haven't done anything in Atlanta in their receiving game at all through free agency or the draft at wide receiver or tight end. So his role is secure.
With that last one that we talked about being an extra half point, I'll go the pick. I'm going to go 208.
That's fair.
All right.
There's some good guys at 208 that could really step up.
Dan, was this your trade? Travis Hunter for Kyle Pitts, Xavier Worthy, and a 27 first, 12-team, full PPR, extra point for the tight end.
Getting hot and bothered here, man. That's a smash Travis Hunter for me.
I'm going 27 first.
Woo! I love me some Travis Hunter.
I love Worthy. You guys know I've loved Worthy ever since he came out. I think he's perfectly fine where he's valued right now.
JB, you're the tiebreaker, JB.
I'm going to go Worthy in the first.
I don't like either of you guys tonight.
and that's not because of Kyle Pitts, but sure, throw him in there. Matt missed these. Sorry about that, man. 1 quarterback, 12 team, start 8. Drake London just became available, and the owner only wants picks. What's a good offer to her or him? Matt has 2 26 first and a 27 first. And then we got Jaden Daniels, Bijan Robinson, Genty, Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rice, Diggs, Downs. This roster looks familiar. I think Matt's brought this one before.
It's going to take 2 firsts to get him. So I would move the 26 first, and I wouldn't move the 27 first.
But I would. Sometimes people get really like crazy rookie fever, Mitch. You know, could you maybe start with an offer of a 26 first and Diggs? See where it goes.
He only wants picks.
Oh, that's right. He only wants picks.
Yeah. So if it's only picks, if that's the only thing you could do, just trade the 226. Don't go for 3. 2's my limit.
But could we? I'm going to get cheap on everyone here. Could we try a 26 first, and if we have any seconds?
You could try it. It's just I don't think it's going to get completed. You could try.
JB. If you have a first and a second, maybe. And I think I'd also need to know where those firsts are too. You know, are you getting a Ted McMillan with one? It's
not going to be early.
Right. See, I don't know if I'd want to give 2 firsts. And as much as I love London, I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally wouldn't do it, but if you want London, that's what you do.
It's going to be the price of admission there.
Seals it.
And again, thank you, Matt. Sorry about that. One more. Kyle Pitts. And a 27 third or the 25 301 and 501. We're getting an extra 0.75. I'll even take Kyle Pitts here.
Agreed.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan, we talked about some trades, talked about some different scenarios, the way that we're either moving or acquiring Kyle Pitts. Are you buying the dip?
On Kyle Pitts, no. There's just too many other similar options. And again, if the price was right, I think we saw that in the chat too. Sure, I'll take Pitts on my roster. Again, he's a receiver with some production that Mitch highlighted. But the dip isn't always there as far as Pitts owners wanting to sell him at that affordable price that we're looking for. So I'm not quite sure. I believe the dip is, yes, there was a big dip from where he once was, but as far as what we're willing to trade, I don't know if the dip is there yet to say I would buy it. So I'd probably lean no.
Yeah, for me, it's not about really the dip. I just think he's at where he's at. I think this is going to be kind of what his value is for the next 3 years. And I'm okay paying this value for him, but I know there's him turning into even tight end 8. It's just not going to happen.
You mean from a production standpoint or
Both.
A value standpoint?
Both. Well, maybe he gets, tight end 8 just over the year, but I don't think you're ever going to want to have him.
All right, let me ask, what if he goes out and puts up something close to his rookie season, but we had 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown his rookie season. Maybe he gets 4 or 5, but then hits that 1,000 yards or so. Tyler Warren comes out there, craps the bed. Colston Loveland comes out there, craps the bed.
They'll be
watch your mouth.
Watch
your mouth, JB.
But George Kittle is now 32 years old, despite how much we love Kittle. Hawkinson, he just has an okay season. The next guy we're going to talk about, Dalton Kincaid, who's tight end 8 on Fantasy Calc, he doesn't produce. Like, there is a world where Kyle Pitts gets back up into that top 6 from a value perspective. There is a world.
There is, but then you have to discount everybody else from not being able to. That's kind of the issue, right?
It will be mad depression in tight end land there if that does happen, JB. And there is a scenario. I mean, Mitch, your theory will be shot, and I've been loving your theory all offseason. If this is the year that you fix the tight end position, if it doesn't pan out, man, that tight end position's sad.
So here's the thing. Tucker Kraft right now is tight end 14. If you go back to the end of the season, he was tight end 8. So, yeah, can Pitts maybe crack it, but will you ever get that value? I just don't think so. But let's talk about the other tight end that you wanted to talk about there, John.
Yeah,
I know.
Tight end sucks. Who cares if he's 6 or 16?
Just wait.
Well, we're going over, and I don't want to spend all that much time, but right above him, tight end 8, Dalton Kincaid. I have almost liquidated all of my shares over the last couple seasons. We talked about the way that offense kind of moved more towards the run game. Dalton Kincaid, from an efficiency standpoint, from a per route run basis, it was there going into 2024. But we saw that shift with Joe Brady calling the plays and the way that offense kind of changed. And is it going to change moving forward back to what we want, more of a pass heavy approach? I don't know if we see that. So Mitch, Dalton Kincaid, is there any interest? Is there any way? Okay, no,
he's older than Kyle Pitts. I think he is harder to move than Kyle Pitts. I can't buy into him. I wanted to really bad last season. The Bills want to be a run first team. It's what they want to do. It's just, I see no reason to buy in Dalton Kincaid. I don't remember what we're talking about, but I was going to bring up Shakir as something. It's not really as a buy, but just someone to talk about. And Dan was like, I don't know if I want any pass catchers in that offense.
Yeah. And I do think it's a situation, and Dan's like, I don't even want to talk about Dalton Kincaid because Dan, you were in on Kincaid, and I was on the other side of that. I remember those conversations we had, and it was the off season going into 2024, and I don't want to take a lap and say I was right there, but how are you feeling about Dalton Kincaid?
I'm still coping, as I have my box of tissues here. He's going into his year 3 tight end season. And there was a time where we had this narrative of, hey, year 3 tight ends, it takes them a little longer to develop. They didn't really do anything in their passing game either. You know what, Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore, maybe a combination of them replaces, whoever they had. Nothing's really materialized there. He had a little flash last year in the second half where he had some games where he started to put together some production, didn't quite maintain. But I'm a little more bullish, and this may just be, again, you guys talked me off it, so I'm not where I was on Kincaid. He's definitely dipped in my rankings. But if there is a true dip, and I'm not fortunate enough to have Bowers, McBride, Laporta, if I couldn't draft Tyler Warren, my guy, or Loveland, then I would want to have a Kincaid on my roster. So if the price is right, I'll stay a little bit bullish. I do agree with Mitch on, hey, they have shown that they have a little more of a tendency to run, but it's not always going to work. Last year, James Cook, he really did cook. If they struggle just anything, hey, maybe get a little more production out of Kincaid, year 3 season. He's still tight to Josh Allen. Hey, 25. I know he's a year older than Pitts, but I do think he runs better routes and is a better player than Kyle Pitts. So if the dip is low enough, JB, I'm diving in the pool, man.
Yeah, it looks like he's still trading in Superflex formats as a top 100 asset, and that's just in straight PPR, coming in at 99th. If I can get Ferguson plus anything, which I can, if I can get Jonnu Smith plus, Evan Engram plus, Isaiah Likely plus, Pat Freiermuth plus, I'm out on Kincaid. And then, so I'm not hedging at all. Same thing for Pitt. Same conversation. All right. Do we want to get into some trades here?
Not really.
No. I think the chat, we had enough, I think, with the tight ends here. Yeah. Let's move on. Chris Olave, wide receiver 22. Dan, do we see a bounce back here? Can Tyler Shuck get that starting job, keep that starting job, and elevate Chris Olave?
Man, that's what really worries me here. There's a few things that worry me with Olave, but I put him in this bucket, and I think we were again chatting in the Discord leading up to the show a little bit of what guys we were going to pick, and I just mentioned Tua as I'm just seeing everyone's like, I don't want him, I'm not interested in him. As we're doing a lot of these rookie drafts and trying to make trades, you're kind of getting the temperature of the room of players that people just don't really want, they're not attracted to. And Chris Olave, I think, is one of them. Tua is one of them. And those two guys are talented guys, but we're all just scared off of them because their concussions have looked really ugly. And there's been a lot of them. And there's some questions on their team. So that had me thinking, it's like, hey, man, everyone's getting scared away. Maybe we should be buying. Hey, these guys are clear. They're working their tails off this offseason. They're ready to compete this year. What happens if they stay healthy for a full year? Olave is a guy that I've been really bullish on, but now we have this quarterback problem. and I want to be, Coach Dan Glass half full, like I often am. And Tyler Shuck, he's, hey, I want to root for the kid and they top 50 draft capital, but is he really good? Olave just might be healthy and this just might not be a great situation. So again, the price is right. I'll bet on talent, but I'm very hesitant to spend too much for a guy with a concussion history in a very questionable quarterback situation.
I see Ricky's comment. Any chance Olave gets dealt? I saw the blurb, and it doesn't even mean he's available. But if he were to become available, New Orleans, New England would be an interested team. Again, if so-and-so were to become available, I mean,
that's something we got to keep
what does
our
that really mean?
thumb on, though, because, boy, how many times do we see a guy get traded and be like, dang, I could have had him. I wish I had him. So, hey, if we think that's going to happen and the sources are good and there's enough smoke there, they're the kind of guys that are worth trading for to get on your roster. And when he does move, you get the payday.
Yeah, I think with Olave, he's a wide receiver too when the offense is moving and he's not having any injury concerns. In 22, he was 25th wide receiver, 19th and 23, injured last year. That's who he is, and I'm completely good buying in if that's his price. The only problem is you do have to add in the concussion issue with a 185-pound wide receiver who just has issues staying on the field. So even if he goes to the Patriots, I'm not all of a sudden going to raise his value because it's the health issue that we have to worry about. I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. I pray that it doesn't, but it's something that's in the back of my mind, and everyone else who wants him or tries to trade for him, they will discount him for that reason. And so I'm really interested to see what these values are that you're going to pull up, John, because I could be in, I could be out. It just kind of depends on what that price point is.
But Mitch, your boy Drake May, unlike Derek Carr, may not hang him out to dry to get concussed. So take that into consideration.
That's fair.
That is fair. What do they call it? The hospital balls there. Before we get into the trades, the chat has been fantastic. It is a gross list. I know it's a gross list, but we can't always talk about the sexy players. We can't always talk about the guys that are still going as top 12, top 24 startup picks. And there are some values to be had in playing in the margins and trying to pick up value any way you can. But yeah, like I said, the chat's been fantastic. Hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's pretty much new content hitting the DD Fantasy Football YouTube channel each and every day. Before we get into the trades, and these are trades like we're just pulling up live. We have not looked at any of these. With the way I have Chris Olave tiered, I would take any 26 first for him, any 27 first for him. I would take Addison plus, Xavier Worthy plus, Jalen Waddle plus. And I say plus for these guys because they're all going after Olave in startups. Pickens plus, DJ Moore plus. I think they're all interchangeable from a production standpoint, and you're not really missing out by moving Olave if you can get a plus with any of them. All right, Dan, 12 teams start 10, full PPR. Jalen Wright, Antonio Gibson, and Chris Olave or the 105.
And you see me getting hot and bothered there, getting that 105 for Olave and change. Smash 105.
Agreed.
Agree. Devontae Smith or Chris Olave, a 26 second, a 26 third, 14 teams start 11 PPR.
The depth of that league. Hey, Devontae Smith's a twig too. I'll roll the dice and take that second and third.
Devontae Smith, because he's a twig that doesn't break. So I'll take him.
14 teams start 11 though, Mitch, man. We can
what
use
are you
that second and third.
Hold on, wait. A second round 26 pick in a 14 team league. Who are you starting with that? I hope that player isn't in your starting roster.
But there's some guys with potential in that second round that could help.
Yes.
Because those leagues get so deep, you get stuck starting some, thin dudes, man.
I'm going to go Devontae Smith.
All right. Hey, we have a trade, guys.
All right, let's see. Oh, 101. So presumably Ashton Genty. This is a 12-team start 10 full PPR. 101 or David Montgomery, Chris Olave, 112 in the 301.
Gente to the moon.
Yeah.
I would go Genty as well, especially in a 12-team start 10. How deep could that go, guys? 12 teams start 12? Do we start to think about it at all or no?
Genty. It's really only maybe 2.75 first for Genty until we reach like that 3 first mark. I'm probably not going to even consider it.
All right. Jaden Reed, Brenton Strange, and a 26th third, or Harold Fannin and Chris Olave. 12-team Superflex start 10 half PPR. No tight end premium.
The no tight end premium will lead me to Olave. If it was a tight end premium, like a 2 PPR, I'd be happy to get Brenton Strange and gamble on Jaden Reed.
Yeah, Chris Olave for me.
I would go Olave in this one.
Yep. Unanimous.
So again, maybe somebody's buying we talk about a dip. Maybe they're buying the bounce back in Jaden Reed, and he'll be utilized in a way that fantasy managers would actually be happy. Brandon Ayuk in a 26-second or Chris Olave, 12-team start 10 full PPR.
I'll roll the dice on Ayuk coming back healthy and enjoy that second.
Chris Olave.
Wow. And not that I'm happy with Ayuk either, Mitch, but if you get two guys that are kind of the same.
I'm just not convinced Ayuk's going to come back healthy.
And we talked about that 23 season kind of being the outlier for him.
Yeah. No, that was huge. When you pointed that out, I was very, very high on Ayuk until you pointed out how he was good for a year and that was it. And then he got paid and now he's got injured. It makes me very hesitant on him now.
And this is the range. This is talking about playing in the margins and trying to, especially if you have a lot of leagues where you can sell at certain prices, buy at certain prices. We saw the 105 trade, and now we're seeing Chris Olave for the 203, 12-team start 11 full PPR. This is Chris Olave for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Same here. Same here.
You had to think about that, didn't you?
I did a little bit because there's some guys early in the second that are tempting, but I have Olave higher. I was also thinking a little bit about the previous trade too. One of the things I always think about too, like when you talk about Ayuk in that second is, hey, we try to move Olave in some of these leagues and you can't move him. Maybe you can't Ayuk, but I have seen some movement on Ayuk, and you give me Ayuk in a second, I might be able to move him somewhere else to get something I want.
And then here's two trades. Keenan Allen, a 26th third, the 201 for Chris Olave. Chris Olave?
Yes.
Yes.
And then Chris Olave for 209 and the 303. So out of all the
really out on Olave.
Ooh, now that forget about it.
Out of all the players we've talked about so far, this is the one that if I had to say buy the dip, I would be comfortable buying it. But again, if buying Chris Olave is for the value of a first, I'm okay not acquiring at that price.
Right. That's exactly where I am.
Yeah. And 201 could be tempting. Like we've seen some talent drop too. I mean, depending what your roster needs. So
just a lot of fanning conversation in the chat. I see some Ayuks over there for the Chris Olave. Did I answer on that one?
Pretty sure you did. You picked Olave.
Did I?
You should have.
I'm
just assuming you did because it was right.
I'm going to stick with Olave there.
That's good.
All right. Last player.
Dan's guy. Dan is going to tell me why this is buying low. This is a dip.
Now I will say, Kyren Williams running back 11. Every offseason, it's like clockwork. Last year, he was going to be returning punts, and now Jarquez Hunter is coming for his job. Like there is that disdain You look at the production we saw from Kyren Williams, and Mitch, do you think it's that baseline we talk about, like the draft capital? We're still talking about the draft capital for him?
I think it's because he's not very athletic. Like you watch someone like Jahmyr Gibbs, right? People immediately buy into that explosion. There's no explosion with Kyren Williams, and he gives you nothing in the passing game. That's my biggest issue. Is I love Kyren. I love what he does to that offense. But if his touchdowns go down from 15, 16 down to 12, then all of a sudden he is running back 12, 13, 14. And you cannot count on anything in the passing game because the Rams do not pass to running backs. They haven't done it since Todd Gurley left, 6-7 years ago, however long ago that was.
I hear you, but he's the Mr. Rodney Dangerfield disrespected guy for me. Like I think what does he have to do? 2 straight 1,000-yard plus seasons, double-digit touchdowns. He's just almost like a lock for a top 10 guy. Coach McVay again praising him this offseason, just talking about his work ethic, and he's just one of those guys where for a little while there I've got some shares of him, and I try to move him, and I'm not interested. Nah, I'm out on him. There's all this reasons why people don't want Kyren Williams, which got me studying a little bit more. I'm like, I'm taking him off of my trade block. I'm hanging on to this guy, and I think I want to go in the other direction if people feel that way about him. I'm not a Blake Corum believer. I'm not a Jaquez Hunter believer. I just think he's in another great situation on a team destined to win, and he's only 24 years old, and he wants to get paid. Like, he wants to get paid, and he's going to do everything he can to get paid, and I think he will get paid. I think he's going to earn another big contract. He's going to earn a big contract. So I think it's time to bet on Kyren Williams.
Now, do we think we haven't seen the Rams invest heavily in a running back from a cost perspective since Todd Gurley?
They haven't had anyone though. That's kind of like
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So do we see them? Do we see them invest in Kyren Williams? That's my point.
They could.
I think they do. I think when a coach has a guy that comes to work every single day and grinds, does everything you could ask for, and I believe he is that, produces again, and then they look at their number 2 and number 3 and say, we don't have a replacement. I could see it. I could see it. And if not, I think someone else pays him.
Frank, appreciate you, man. Will Bucky get the same treatment?
Frank knows Rodney. I love it. Will Bucky
I don't
get
think
the
so.
same treatment?
Why not?
Same treatment as in people are out on him?
The disrespect, I think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but when you have a trade talk with Bucky, they love Bucky, right?
Dude, they love Bucky. And Kyren has just never had that love. Even when last year when he went out and only played in like 12 games and still had 15 touchdowns, people still didn't love him. But I mean, Bucky has a good year and everyone's like, oh, he's running back 4 in Dynasty now. It's like, okay, all right, that's where we're at.
And doesn't he fall in that like David Montgomery bucket, those veterans that we talk about every year that we're out on those veterans and they always do well again, the James Connors. And again, he's 24 and he just keeps doing well. So
I was just pulling up Bucky here. 52 targets last year. And that's with him kind of being really eased into things with Rachaad White still being a nuisance. People love Bucky. They do. If you put out any type of fantasy football content and you show any kind of skepticism when it comes to Bucky Irving, people will let you know. Mitch, you felt the wrath.
I did. I dare question why he is ranked where he is, and I learned better. Just don't talk about him pretty much.
He's like Candyman. Don't say his name 3 times, okay? All right, let's see here. Mitch, let's start with you. 14 teams, start 12, deeper league. Ricky Pearsall, Alvin Kamara, 202 and 302 for Kyren Williams, the 113 and a 26 third.
Going Kyren in the 113.
Me too. I think you want to get your guys, and that 113 could be better than Pearsall, and Kyron's definitely better than Kamara.
I actually, in a 14 by 12,
It's a good deal. That's a very deep league.
I lean Ricky. I do lean Ricky. Let's see some higher pieces there. Kyren Williams and Kareem Hunt for a 26 first and a 26 third. 12 teams start, 12 full PPR, half point extra for tight ends. Mitch?
Kyren.
Yeah, especially if I'm contending, Kyren.
Yeah, when we look at 2025 picks, Mitch, what's the breaking point for you for Kyren?
You say 26 picks?
No, 25 picks. So you're in the middle of a rookie draft.
That's hard because there's so many good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a normal draft, I would be, hey, the 106, 107. But right now, that is a younger back that I like more. You could get Travion Henderson there in a lot of spots. You could get Caleb Johnson there in almost every spot. And so this draft, I think that's kind of why it's hard with Kyren, is because we do have such good running backs behind him. If I had to say in this draft, I would say the 110-ish because I like the rookies a little bit more. But next year, it could easily be the 105, depending on how those rookie running backs look, because right now they don't look great in that 26 class.
All right, let's see here. Here we go. Kyren and Jarquez Hunter. 12 teams start 11, full PPR. So Jarquez and Kyren for Ricky Pearsall, a 26 second, third and fourth. Give me Kyren.
Same. Yep.
Let me see.
And you get both. So even if Kyren sucks, you get Hunter. So you're fine.
Little insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to, again, scrolling through some of the comments. See some Jalen Milroe conversation. Do you believe in Jalen Milroe, Mitch?
I believe in Jalen Milroe's dynasty value. How's that? I have 0.5% faith that he'll ever be more than a 3-game starter in the NFL.
I think he's going a little bit earlier in rookie drafts than I feel comfortable taking him.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen him go as high as 203, I think, in 12-team Superflex formats. You talk about upside. You talk about the interesting situation at quarterback ahead of him and Sam Darnold. Yeah, he has the 3-year contract, but it's kind of like a 1-year contract with and out after each year. Going a little too early for my liking.
I compare it to what we saw DTR do with the Browns late last year.
Oh.
That's what I expect any Jalen Milroe game to look like, to be honest. But people don't care, and people will buy into him because that narrative's been spun this whole offseason. The second he starts, his value is going to go up, and it will just based off that.
All right, Dan. Last Kyren trade. Kyren for a 26 first and second. 12 teams start 10, only half PPR here. So Mitch, you talked about Kyren not really being involved too much in the passing game. Does this half PPR? I mean, obviously that would benefit a player like him.
Yeah, the scoring's definitely better. If I need Kyren to win this year, I'm going to take the Kyren side. If I'm rebuilding, I'll take that first and second.
Oh, Kyren.
All right. So Dan, is it fair to say, if we're talking about a dip for Kyren, even though Mitch, you're a little skeptical that there is a dip. So Dan, you would buy this proverbial dip?
Yeah, I'm liking those price points there, and I like the player and I like his situation.
Okay. Yeah, Mitch, I'm kind of with you. I think it's a great player to talk about. He's a great player to talk about because he produces. We've seen it so far, obviously. Can he continue down that path? But it doesn't seem like he gets the respect that these guys going above him do. Obviously, outside of the top, like 3-4 guys that there's no question people prefer him or prefer them over him. But he's a running back. How high is his value truly going to go, even if he produces?
John, you brought up James Conner, right? I think James Conner is like a perfect guy to kind of compare him to. James Conner has produced every single time he's been on the field. Kyren Williams will probably produce every time that he's on the field. It's just does the dynasty community care enough to put value on that? I'm willing, as you saw, I picked Kyren in almost every single one of those trades because I want him on my team. I just know that moving him off my team or moving him for a greater value if he does good this upcoming season, I just don't think I'm getting more than what I'm paying today for him.
It's one of the situations when you look at the tight ends we talked about, Anthony Richardson, Chris Olave. This is one of those situations that Kyren Williams, you're investing in him to get the production, not looking to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying you're necessarily looking to acquire those other guys to flip, but because of the age, because of the position, there is a little bit more of that flippability factor when you take everything into account. All right, man, for the 292nd time on Dynasty Theory, talking about buying the dip on some of these nasty players. Dan, what do you got? Final thoughts for the listeners?
Man, final thoughts at this point in the offseason, just scrounging for anything we could get, right? After our last episode, we got the schedule release. So I kind of have a grid all set out, looking at those playoff weeks. And then I think the next 2 days is the NFL league meetings, I believe, where they're going to vote on the tush push and I think playoff seeding. So just a few more nuggets to look out for as we prepare for the season.
Mitch, what do you got?
It's startup season. John, you have joined so many startups like just in the last 3 weeks. It is crazy. But literally, we have one going all the time in the Discord. I sadly can't do it because of a vacation I'm going to have going up. But as soon as I get back, I guarantee I'm going to join a couple of them. It's a great time of year to do it just because nothing's going on. So definitely join the Discord to get in these startups. And then you could be in leagues probably with John because if one's starting up, you'll be in it.
Mitch, I was dying at one of the comments on the last video of Trending Fantasy because you mentioned, you know what comment I'm going to say.
Yep.
Mitch mentions, hey, it's really tough to trade in leagues post rookie draft. If you can't get a trade done, join a startup.
Yep.
And somebody was like, I've never related to a comment so much in my life. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. So get up to maybe 1,000 leagues or so this off season. Let's get crazy. All right. Well, hopefully you all enjoyed this week's episode. Like I said, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Talking about some of those gross assets on this week's episode. But again, the chat was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, any upcoming topics you'd like for us to discuss, drop it in the episode comments after the episode goes final here, and then we'll be sure to get to them. And then, So like I said, we appreciate it. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch everybody next week. Peace.